Good morning and welcome to another episode of us going through Bible characters with just a school pastor Bell. I would just like to encourage you all once again, if you're enjoying this channel, if you're enjoying the content, please hit the like button, please subscribe. And I want to add something today, if you wouldn't mind sharing, especially this message. I think this is a very good message today that you can share to family, friends, or someone who just needs some upliftment. So we've gone quite a long way. We finished the entire book of Genesis after today, and today we are doing the story of Joseph. A very, very famous story, Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat, and there's all these plays and all these movies, and the story has really been well covered. But I want to point a few things out and remind you of a few things. So let's quickly go through the basics of his story. So Joseph was the favorite son of his father Israel, or Jacob, because he was the firstborn of Jacob's favorite wife. And so he was much loved by his father, and he was given this coat of many colors. And to add on to that, he had prophetic dreams. Now, God can often speak to us through many forms, many ways. He most commonly speaks very clearly through his written word, but to Joseph he spoke through dreams. And so Joseph dreams of his family serving him or bowing down to him, and this did not go down very well. Anyway, one day his father says, "Please will you go and find out what your brothers are up to? What are they doing?" And so he goes off and he goes on his adventure, and he looks for them and he finds them. But before he arrives at them, they decide they're going to kill him. And the oldest brother Reuben decides, "Nah guys, we can't kill this poor guy." And so they decide to rather put him in a pit. And while he's in this pit, they're still having a good time and they're deciding what they're going to do. And then they see these people, this traveling band, the Ishmaelites. I wonder where they came from. Ishmael? Anyway, they sell him off and he's into slavery. And what's very fascinating in the story is that in the story of Joseph, we see a lot of the fulfillment of scriptures given in Genesis already. And we start to see God's plan starting to unfold. If you remember in Genesis chapter 15 verse 13 and you read it, it says God told Abraham, this is now way before Joseph was even born. This Abraham was plus minus around 80 something years old, so not even the promised son of Isaac was born yet. And God tells Abraham, your descendants, your people, they are going to spend 400 years in slavery and suffering. And God explains what's going to happen and the plan that he has. And now here in the story of Joseph, we start to see that plan unfolding. We start to see God moving events to orchestrate and to make possible that which he's already prophesied. So for anyone who thinks God's not an active part in everyday life, they need to read the story again. Sometimes he's not speaking to us directly, but he's working in the background to set things up. God's setting you up today for success and for victory. And so they sell him off into slavery by chance. We all know that it's God working. The Potiphar, the second in control, the big man in Egypt buys him, and this is where God really starts working. He doesn't speak to Joseph. I feel so bad for this guy. He just works, and God's blessing everything that he does. So the blessing of the Lord is really on Joseph. But Joseph isn't hearing from God. And oftentimes in our lives we go through these spells where there's just silence from God, and we're like, Lord, what are you doing? Talk to me, God. And it's in those times we must remind ourselves, God's not forgotten us. He is working. Our responsibility is to live a life with the character of God, to do those obedient daily things, to honor your master as Joseph was doing. And so Joseph continues and he's blessed, and then there's the temptation of this man's wife, and then the lie, the accusation. He's in jail and he's still not heard from God, and he's wondering, I'm doing all the right things, Lord, and things are going south. It's not improving. And so he continues to be faithful even in jail. And sometimes when we are at our worst place in life, when we are at rock bottom, we often have that temptation of, well, I've tried to be good, I've tried to do the right things, what's the point? And if we continue to be a faithful and obedient witness for Christ, He will take us out of that pit, He will take us out of that prison. And so now he's been faithful, he's in charge of the prison again, but not great. And finally, breakthrough. At his worst place, God speaks to him again through dreams. Must have been quite annoying though for him, because then when God speaks to him, God's speaking about his prisoners. He's not even speaking about the plan he has for Joseph. And so he has the one plan which is bad news, he has the one plan which is good news, which he hears from God, and then he gets forgotten. And then Pharaoh has a dream, and then, Joseph's like, I hear from God. I know. He has this confidence that can only come through daily obedience to God. I want to say that again. This is one of the most important parts. If you want to grow in confidence in spiritual things, if you want to grow in confidence with the things of God, the requirement is daily obedience. Not the glitz and the glamour of the prophecies and all the nice things. It's the daily obedience in your daily life. That challenge of, let me not speak badly today. Let me speak always with grace. And then we have the whole thing of the brothers coming to collect grain, and the story. You guys know the rest of the story. I'm not going to go into it, but I want to say something. When the brothers came and they realized who Joseph was right at the end of the story, and they were scared of him, he said something that's very New Testament. He said, you guys put me in that pit and sold me into slavery, intending me harm. You intended the worst for me. But the God I serve, again, that confidence that comes only through daily obedience. He says, the God that I serve, the God who was with me, used that which you intended for harm for my good. And does that not sound like what we hear in Romans, where it says God works all things together for the good of those who are called according to His purposes? God had a purpose here, and He will accomplish it. God has a purpose for your life. He will accomplish it. Are you growing in your daily confidence? Daily, are you working at your obedience to what He has told you and instructed you to do? That's the challenge of the day. There's many distractions, there's many temptations. And again, we see in the life of Joseph, what do we do in the face of temptation? He flees, he runs away. What do we do when we have family members who've hurt us deeply? We forgive. That's what he did. And so in Joseph, there's so many parallels and lessons we can learn, but there's this thing I want to leave with you. This story so closely imitates the story of Jesus Christ, an innocent man who suffered, and that brought the salvation of his people. That is the story of Jesus. That is the story of Joseph. Jesus died for you. He suffered for your sins, that you may be set free, that you may be saved. Today, turn to Him, trust Him, No matter where you find yourself, if you're in the pit, if you're in the palace, it does not matter. Work at your daily obedience to build that confidence and that relationship with Jesus Christ. You'll be amazed at the victories and the successes and the blessings that He opens your eyes to. Thank you.